there's a massive disconnect between how brands want to be perceived versus how they are actually showing up. And it's silently costing them high quality clients, trust, authority, and the ability to charge what they're worth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. Now, before we get started, I just want to sit in a moment of gratitude and say thank you so much for being a part of the Beauty Industry Leaders community. Over the last 18 months or so, we have exponentially grown. We've just surpassed 16,000 downloads, and we've reached 814 cities globally, which is insane. And when I was actually researching into the success rate of podcasts, most podcasts never make it past episode 3. Only 10% make it past episode 6, and fewer than 1% keep publishing consistently long term. And then if you look at the average podcast globally, they usually get around maybe 150 downloads per episode. But we're currently sitting at that 200 to 350 plus mark. And I guess the thing about podcasting is that there's always new people finding the show. And so the episodes that I was doing, 18 months ago are starting to get, 30 plus downloads a week because people are starting to find the show and they listen from the start. But it was really interesting because when I was doing some market research on my stories, it was like 70% of my audience just listened to the topic that they're interested at the time. So, whether you are listening consistently or whether you've just stumbled across this episode, I still do want to take a moment and say thank you so much. Like if you have listened, if you've shared it, if you've taken the time out of your day to send me a message and share your feedback, share your key takeaways, or share wins that you've had from implementing the strategies that I'm teaching, it honestly does mean the world because on social media, you get to see likes, shares, and comments. You can pretty much tell if your content is doing well or not. But when you're podcasting, you're talking into a screen and a mic and you don't get anyone's reaction. So you're just praying that, okay, hopefully they like this content. And there's some days where you just keep putting out the content and no one's giving you any feedback and you don't know if they like it or not. But then you can kind of look at the downloads, but you can't actually tell how long they're listening for. So every time that someone takes a moment out of their day to actually send me that message and give that feedback, it has really helped me start planning for 2026 and improving the podcast, creating a better experience for you. And if you want to get involved with some incredible industry events that we're going to be bringing to the table in 2026, please make sure that you are following at Sammy Kennedy Coach and also the at Beauty Industry Leaders accounts on Instagram so you can stay up to date and you can also engage with the stories when we are doing market research or when we are putting things out. Now, I want to take a moment and give a massive shout out to Armella_Nax on Instagram. She sent me a message and she said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast on Spotify and I had to see who the face of the voice is." And then when I actually asked what was your favorite episode, it came back to why slow season is a myth. And then also the one about ADHD as it's super helpful. And she's listening in from the UK, which is really, really cool. So being able to start seeing the podcast grow outside of Australia, I've got a few people in America. Well, I say a few people, I've got like 3,000 or so downloads from America. So we're starting to grow there. And it's just like, wow, I would have never thought like sitting in my studio apartment, investing in all this podcasting equipment and just getting started would lead me to where I'm headed. And let me talk about that. So updates with the podcast studio. It's actually costing a lot more than I initially thought it would because for me, I think as a brand, I really do value quality and I don't want to be a budget brand. I want to be premium. And so for me, it's been doing a lot of market research. It's been understanding how I can elevate things. And with that, obviously, comes some significant investment. So To give you an idea, when we looked at chairs, I did speak about this in another episode. In the area I'm in, they're like 3 to 12K for one chair. We went on Temple and Webster and found some really great chairs for around $400, $450 each. And then it's $200 for shipping. Now, I initially bought 2, but I'm actually going to buy a third one so that I can have myself and 2 other guests, whether it's a husband-wife duo or whether it's also like 2 different industry experts that I want to have in on a conversation. It's just going to add more value. And initially I was thinking 4, but given the cost of everything, it does really add up quickly. So we're going with the Shure SM7B mics, which are the creme de la creme. They are like the top of the range ones. I currently have the Rode Pod mic, which I do love and adore. And look, they have little packages where it has like the Rode mics, the Rode stands, the XLR cables, and the Rodecaster, and it's like $3 and a bit grand for 4 mics. But no, we are going with the Shure ones, and they don't come with anything other than the mic. So the mic is around $700. Then you've got to get a stand for it, which is probably about $80 to $150. Then you need an XLR cable, which is another $30 to $50, depending on the length you go for. And then you've also got to get the Rodecaster, so something that you can put all the mics and headphones into, which is around $900 to $1,100. And then you've got to get a headset. So that could be anywhere from $80 to like $300 per headset. And then you times that by 3 or 4, depending on how many guests you want. And so I have been very overwhelmed because it has felt scary. It's a huge investment. And for the most part, podcasting is not something that you necessarily make a lot of money off. If anything, you're putting so much money into it and you're not really getting much out of it because you've got to build the audience and the trust over time. But what I did realize is that the more I invest into my business, my brand, my podcast, my audience, the better quality everything is. I can attract higher quality guests. I have a more premium brand. I can have premium prices. Like there's just so much more that I can benefit from rather than thinking about all the things that I'm going to lose it's not all the things. It's literally money. And so instead of spiraling and feeling like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, I'm going to have no money after doing this, I've thought, you know what? This is an investment in my future. This is an investment in my audience. This is an investment in myself, backing myself that I can actually do this. And so I'm very excited to see it all come together. We did have a negative experience with ordering these slats. From the moment I ordered, they sent me a receipt. They didn't actually send me a tracking number. And then 2 weeks later, I called up and I was like, hey, just curious, like, has this been shipped? And they're like, oh, no, we don't have any stock. So we'll send it out when we get it. And I was like, when are you expecting it? It's like, oh, next week. And I was like, okay, great. So I waited. 3 weeks goes past since the initial order. 4 weeks has gone past. I'm like, where are these slats? Like, I really do want them because that is the thing that's holding me back from getting the podcast studio done. So I call up again. And I'm asking them, hey, I'm just wondering, it's been 4 weeks since I initially ordered. Have you sent out the package or have you received it yet? And then they're like, oh, yeah, we already sent it out. And I'm not even joking. I said to him, can you please send me an email just so I can check the tracking so I know when it's coming? And I get an email 5 minutes later after the phone call and I check on Freight Direct Express or whatever it was called. And it was like literally 2 minutes after he hung up on the phone, then he sent it. And I was just fuming inside because I was like, this is the worst customer experience that I have ever had. Like, for starters, why would you make something available online if you've already sold out of it? And then if you did sell out of it, why would you not contact me either by email or phone to let me know it's out of stock and when to expect it's coming? I paid express shipping. And then just to top it off, from the date that they said it was going to arrive, which was like a Friday, it didn't come until the next week after the Friday. So this whole process just to get these black slats has taken 6 weeks. And you know what the funniest part is? You know, when a female says that, it's not really funny. Yeah, this is one of those things. So the funniest part is that he said to me, oh, we've been under the pump with Black Friday sales. And I was like, bro, I ordered this in like the middle of October. How is that Black Friday? Your Black Friday didn't even start until the middle of November. So yeah, that was not a great customer experience. And you know what? I was kind of dumbfounded because the reviews were incredible. Lots of 5-star reviews on their website, Trustpilot. They had an established, good-looking social media, like everything looked professional, but this was not a good business. So anyways, don't go with Panello if you want to get slats, despite how good they may look. That was not a good customer experience for me at all. So anyways, the slats have just come a couple of days ago. So Nick and I will install them. And if you've been following along on socials, you would have seen that I had my branding shoot the other week and I was shooting for like 2 to 3 hours. But then on top of that, you got to get your hair and makeup done and all of that stuff. So it did drag out. I was quite tired. I'd finished up at about 1:30. And because we had the AHA Awards for Wild West Bowling, my mum and dad were coming up to Perth. And so they went to the new podcast studio location and they spent Sunday while I was doing my brand shoot putting glue on these carpet tiles and then putting them all on the walls, aside from the wall where the slats are going. So the slats will go behind where you'll have the 2 chairs of the guests sitting, and then the other 3 walls are all covered in black carpet. And we chose to do that because it looked a lot more classy than if you were to do painting and then you've got to deal with the light reflections. Like I really wanted some curtains, but I think we'll see how the carpet tiles show up first. And then if they don't look good, we'll add in some like sheer curtains just to add some dimension. So yeah, this has been a really interesting learning curve. Obviously, I've had to do a lot more research on lighting. I've done research on podcasting equipment. And I've also been really fortunate that Nick has been on board and spending a lot of time watching YouTube videos and learning things for me and then just giving me the main point that I want to know. I'm very different than him. Like I would rather someone just get to the point and tell me, is it good? Yes or no? Then I'll buy it. Whereas he likes to go through reviews and like specs and features and understand all the different things. So we have been the dream team. I'm very grateful for him. I'm so grateful for my family. Like most of my life, I have spent time always helping them, you know, being in this little shoebox thing, selling tickets for the rodeo for 12 hours in like 30-degree heat and like building out the bowling alley or sitting and doing things. And then to see my family come up and want to be a part of what I'm building, it's a lot easier than a bowling alley, a podcast studio. So it just really made me feel very grateful because I know that there's a lot of people who are like, I'm self-made and I've done all these things and, you know, I didn't have any help or anything like that. But in my experience, family is one of the most important values that I have. And when I need something, they're there for me. When they need something, I'm there for them. And it's really nice that I get to share this with them and they're all invested as well to see me succeed in my podcasting career. It feels a little bit more realistic than saying I want to be an influencer or I want to be a musician, maybe when I was a bit younger. But anyways, here we are. So we'll see how the podcasting goes. Anyways, back to the topic. Today's episode is one I've wanted to record for a long time. And honestly, you pushed me to do it in the best way possible. After my most recent brand shoot, my DMs absolutely blew up with questions. Like I had people asking, how do you plan your outfits? How do you pose like that? How do you choose a photographer? How did you learn to look so confident on camera? And the big one is always like, Sammy, how do I make my brand look like that? And the more messages I read, the more I realize something important. There's a massive disconnect between how brands want to be perceived versus how they are actually showing up. And it's silently costing them high quality clients, trust, authority, and the ability to charge what they're worth. So today we're going there. And I'm going to be brutally honest around what I've been seeing and how you need to show up if you want to be taken seriously in this industry. Your visuals are telling the story of your brand long before you get the chance to. Your photos, your poses, your expressions, your outfits, your backgrounds, your lighting, they're all sending signals. Signals that decide in a split second whether someone sees you as premium, trustworthy, experienced, or cheap, inconsistent, and easy to overlook. I'm saying this because I've lived it. I've made the mistakes, I've worn the wrong outfits, done the wrong poses, underinvested, overinvested, and tried to look hot instead of looking like the leader I'm meant to be. And the research backs this up. Your brand imagery shapes beliefs, emotions, assumptions, and value perception instantly. And the wild part, the clients you attract are a direct reflection of how your brand looks online. So if your imagery screams DIY, you attract DIY clients. If your imagery signals cheap, you attract bargain hunters. If your imagery looks premium, aligned, intentional, and high quality, that's when you start attracting people who value what you do, who respect your time, who don't question your prices, and who want the experience you offer. And that's exactly why I'm recording this episode for you. Because the gap between your desired brand image and your perceived brand image is the gap that determines your income, your confidence, and your place in this industry. Now, today I'm pulling back the curtain on the mistakes I made that instantly lowered my perceived value, the psychology behind why your branding is attracting the clients it is, the body language cues that make or break your authority, and the exact brand shoot strategy I use to create images that signal leadership, trust, and premium quality. And by the end of this episode, you're going to see your brand with brand new eyes. And you'll fully understand why your photo shoot matters more than you think and why my audience has been begging me to talk about this. So let's get into it. When I'm talking to clients or even people who listen to this podcast about what they're experiencing as a business owner when it comes to branding, they're usually starting to notice things like, oh, I'm struggling to stand out from other businesses in my niche or my industry. So they're looking at what everyone else is doing and then they're looking at them and there's just no clear point of difference. Sometimes these businesses also lack creating that strong emotional connection or relationship with their audience. So a great example is when I have someone follow me and I go onto their profile and I have a look through and they've only got photos of their work, I don't even know what their name is. I don't even know what they look like. Why would I want to book an appointment with them? I don't want to book in with a faceless account. Like, if I'm here for an hour or two, I want to make sure that the person I like looks trustworthy. I'm going to get along with them. Like, by not showing your face, you're creating this barrier of like, who is this person? And I think when it comes to the pricing side of things, there's usually a big disconnect between the price tag versus what the marketing looks like or the branding looks like. So if you want to be premium and you're like, I want high value clients and I want to charge more, but your images look like they are taken on a Samsung that has not had a clean lens, and your images look like they've been taken on a Samsung and the lens hasn't been cleaned, or they've got really heavy filters from Instagram, or just they don't look quality, they don't look premium, they don't look professional, it's going to be really hard for other people to actually perceive you as that premium brand. So what happens then is you attract low quality customers. They don't respect you. They don't respect your time. They don't respect your energy or your expertise because you look cheap. And so this is when it can get really emotionally draining for you because you're putting in so much time and effort. You know you're good at the service that you offer. You know that you have a great client experience. But when someone looks at your website or your marketing and they see these photos, they see your graphics, they're going, oh, that looks cheap and nasty. And what I find with majority of business owners in this industry, especially if they haven't grown up showing their face to camera, they've always kind of hid behind their client photos and then maybe some pretty social media graphics, is that they're insecure. They're too scared to show up in front of camera. They don't feel photogenic, or they may want to, but they don't know how. And then lastly, when it comes to the brand shoot and they're like, yes, well, I feel like I need to because everyone else is doing it and I'm not really happy with what I've currently got, the questions start to roll in of like, how much should it cost? What is good value versus bad value? How do I even do it? And so I want to break it all down for you today. So something really interesting that has nothing to do with branding. When I was researching data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, people in the highest 20% of wealth in Australia hold nearly 2/3, so 64% of all wealth, while those in the lowest 60% hold less than a fifth of wealth, which is 17%. So let me break this down in simple language for you. The richest 20% of Australians hold 64% of Australia's wealth. So if you think about it, if you're cheaping out, you'll struggle to attract the type of people who actually have money. People who have money, they value their time. They value quality. They value experience, and they value status. They are very intentional with who they associate with, the brands they buy from, because subconsciously it signals a level of power, and it also signals a reflection of value and self-worth. And the reason why I wanted to bring this into today's conversation is because a lot of you have mindset issues when it comes to charging a certain amount. They're like, people won't pay for it. But if you look at it, majority of people can't afford that service. And so why are you trying to sell it to the broke people? Like, you wouldn't go and sell a mansion to a homeless person. And so instead of trying to cheap out and think about all the discounts you can give and race your competition to the bottom, have no profit margins and send yourself bankrupt, the other way you got to go is investing in quality, investing in your value, investing in the experience for your clients, investing in how you are perceived. And as superficial as it may all sound, we are in the beauty industry. It is aesthetics. It is visually pleasing things. And so if I can't see you don't have your social media together, you don't have good brand photos, why would I trust you with hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on my face? Like, my face is so personal to me. Why would I trust you? And this is what the wealthy people are asking. So when they see that cheap price tag, when they see that bad imagery, they're not drawn to it. But when they see something that is luxe, when they see something that is premium, when they see something that has a high level of attention to detail, that is telling them that I can trust this brand because of how they show up for themselves. So imagine how they're going to show up for me. And this is why you find the businesses and the brands that are in the high end, that are premium, they become industry leaders because they are doing it the best. No one doing it the cheapest is doing it that well because they don't have the profit margins. They can't invest in their team. They can't invest in upskilling. They can't invest in their clients. They can't invest in better products. They can't invest in better equipment. And so if you have no profit, your business slowly dies a very painful death. And this is why taking shortcuts and trying to go down the cheaper route will not always serve you. And it's something I've stood by. I've done it. I've made the mistakes and I've gone, you know what? This is a direct reflection of how much effort I've put in and how I've tried to shortcut things of who I've actually attracted in. Now, if you have seen my journey, you would have known that I've experienced the beauty industry from all different angles, from modeling to pageantry to providing services to receiving services. I think because I've been on the receiving end or the providing end of so many different kind of experiences, it's really changed my perspective on how we operate as business owners. Another thing that has highly influenced how I show up and why I'm actually doing this episode and communicating all of this with you is because I've been in the luxury watch industry for the last 3 years, and I've learned a lot about how luxury markets work, the psychology behind it, and more importantly, how your appearance can be the make or break with building trust. So let me tell you a story. When I first got into business coaching, I never forget, I used to just wear activewear because it was comfortable. It was what I wore on my day-to-day. And I actually did a brand shoot where I was literally wearing activewear and I was holding my laptop and I had my Beauty Boss coaching program. Please don't cringe. Like, I'm cringing enough for the both of us right now. And when I posted the photos, I just remember getting so many messages and people were like, oh, are you a beauty business coach? I thought you were a PT. And when people came across me, they always thought I was a personal trainer because I was wearing activewear. And so just by the clothes I was wearing, that was signaling a certain perception of myself. And then when you look at the luxury watch market, I'm dealing with watches that are 200, 300, 400,000 or 1, 2, 3 mil. Like, there's kind of different ends of the spectrum where these watches are worth more than some people's houses. And if you were to rock up in activewear and they're giving you a $300,000 watch, they're going to be a little bit concerned. But if they saw you dressed professionally, you've got some nice classy clothing on, you've done your hair nice and well, you've got some makeup on, they're going to see you polished, they're going to trust you way more than if you were rocking up in your activewear. And so I never actually forget the guy that got me into watches. He sat me down and he said, Sammy, please do not wear any activewear to these meetings. I need you to put effort in. And it kind of did take me back a little bit. I was like, oh, what? I can't just wear what I want, but it's comfortable and I'm only there for like 30 minutes and I pick up the watch and drop it off. But he said, it's not that. It's that you are signaling a level of professionalism, a level of trust, and you need people to believe that they can trust you. Otherwise, they're not going to want to leave their watch with you. And it did sting a little at the time, but I appreciate that he told me that, because that was a huge pivotal moment of me realizing that I wanted to be this high-level person in the watch world and I wanted to be perceived as a professional business owner, but everything I was doing, how I was showing up, it didn't actually align with that identity. And so I had to step up my game. And I did. I went and did a personal clothes styling session. I went and looked into different Pinterest boards of how to dress, how to style. I think when you do modeling, you just get given everything and you just show up and you model. But for me to actually learn about my body type and what best suits me, it really did help me elevate myself. And you know how they say look good, feel good? When I was looking amazing, I did feel good about myself. I felt professional. People took me seriously. And when you're 23 and you're in an industry where people are, 20 years plus older than you, you don't want to look like a little girl. You don't want to look like someone who's just having fun and playing around. Like, I am serious about what I'm doing. I invest so much into my business, myself. And so I've also had to invest in the way I show up from a visual point of view, because that is so important. People will look at you and they will judge you straight away. No matter what you think, first-time impressions, they do exist. And so if I can signal a good first impression, then I'm going to have an easier time building trust. But if I don't, it takes a lot longer to build that relationship. So we are drawn to visuals and aesthetics. If we see poor quality content, we're going to assume it's a low quality brand. If we see high quality imagery, we're going to assume it's a premium quality brand. So I was reading a journal article, came out in 2012. It's called Brand Image, Past, Present and Future. Researchers Malik, Naeem and Manwar explain that brand image is basically the picture or feeling someone gets in their mind when they think about your brand. Your brand imagery shapes people's beliefs, ideas, and impressions about your product or service. It's a multi-dimensional concept influenced by what consumers see, feel, and experience. There's things like visuals, emotions, symbols, values, or even small cues, and they all play a part in how your brand is interpreted. So there's two sides to the brand image. One is the perceived image, which is how your customers actually see you. And the other side is the desired image, which is how your business wants to be seen. The brands that win are the ones where those two match. Because when your desired image aligns with your audience lived experience, that's when you build real brand equity, trust, and long-term value. And like, if we break it down to even really simple things, if you have one font on your socials, another font on your website, and then something completely different on another platform, people just don't see that consistency, so they don't trust you. Whereas if everything is consistent, it creates a higher level of trust. And so when you're looking at your branding, don't just go grab some Canva template and just change the words and images. Make sure that it aligns to your brand tonality, the colors, the fonts. Like, everything needs to be your own branding, because if you keep jumping on trends, you copy what everyone else is doing, and you look for the latest templates, but you don't actually edit them or change them to align to you, you don't have a clear point of difference. No one can really figure out why they should buy from you. And what makes you special. The whole point of a brand is if you were to take away the logo and I either read your copy or I saw your content, I could immediately create a brand association with you. So when I was doing deeper research into things around branding, building brand equity, I came across Keller's customer-based brand equity model. And it basically shows you how a brand becomes powerful in the mind of a consumer. So it's built like a pyramid with 4 levels. And the idea is the stronger each level is, the more valuable your brand becomes and the more loyal your customers are. So at the very bottom level of the pyramid, we have brand salience, which is essentially who are you? This is the foundation. It's all about brand awareness. Do people know you exist? Do they remember you? Does your brand pop into their mind when they're ready to buy? So if you think of going on a holiday and you think flights, if you're going to Bali, you're probably thinking Jetstar. If you're flying somewhere in Australia, you might think Virgin or Qantas. If you're going to Europe, you might think Emirates. It's having that brand awareness where if people are going to take a certain action or do something, you're the first person that comes to mind. Now, if you're not top of mind, you're not in the game. And this is why consistent branding, strong imagery, and recognizable messaging matter. So the goal for you in this level is to be the first brand people think of when a certain need or a problem pops up. Now, as we move up to the second level of this pyramid, we have brand meaning, which is what are you? So once people know you, they start forming a picture of what you are. And this level has 2 parts essentially. So the first part is performance. So how well does your product or service actually work? Do you deliver results? Do you solve problems? Are you reliable, consistent, and trustworthy? And then the second part of this is the imagery. So this is where your branding, aesthetics, visuals, and personality come in. People will judge your vibe, your values, your style, whether you feel premium, fun, innovative, high-end, etc. So the goal at this level is to shape how people understand your brand practically and emotionally. Now, as we move up to the third level in the pyramid, we are looking at brand judgments and brand feelings. So what do people feel and think about you? This is when your consumers start forming opinions. So with brand judgments, these are the rational thoughts that they're having. Is this brand high quality? Is it trustworthy? Is it superior to others? Is it worth the money? And with brand feelings, these are the emotional responses people usually have. So does this brand make me feel confident? Is it happy? Am I feeling inspired? Do I feel safe? Do I feel pampered? Now, the goal of this level is that you want to build positive thoughts and positive emotions towards your brand. And then at the very top of the pyramid, we have brand resonance, which is essentially saying, do we have a real connection? Now, this is the top of the pyramid, the holy grail of branding. Brand resonance means your customers feel connected to you on a deeper level. They become loyal, repeat buyers, brand advocates, and the people who remember you without being asked. The ones who won't switch brands even if a competitor is cheaper. And this is where you get your cult following territory. So the goal at this level is that you create a relationship where customers feel aligned with your brand and they actually stick with you long term. So the core idea of this is people don't just buy products. They buy meaning, identity, connection, and trust. Now, your job as a brand is to move them up the pyramid step by step until they reach that resonance point where they don't just buy from you, they believe in you and they are loyal to you forever. So how do you send a signal that you are high quality, an industry leader, and command premium pricing? It's your visuals. Your visuals are the first touch point. So I'm going to talk through some of the most common mistakes and lessons that I made when I got into branding and looking at my imagery and my social graphics and all of that side of things. I did speak about this before, but number 1, wearing activewear. because it was comfortable and basically all I owned. The problem is that created an instant brand association. So people started perceiving me as a personal trainer instead of a business coach. So your clothing is a visual cue for what you do, and mine was telling the wrong story. So if you are wearing a tracksuit pant to work, people are not going to perceive you as professional. They're going to think you just got out of bed in the morning. I don't care who says, oh, but it's really comfy and my clients, my friends and everything. Well, yeah, that's the problem. They're your friends. They don't respect you. If they don't come to an appointment on time or they no-show you, don't worry, we're besties. You'll be fine. Like, they don't see you as a professional business owner when you're wearing that kind of clothing. Like, wear clothing that makes it make sense for your customers. Another common mistake that I made in the early days was that I had a bit of a Kukai era, and I do really like Kukai, don't get me wrong. I think they have some great pieces, but they were every girl outfits. Like, everyone was wearing those same Kukai oyster pants. They were always wearing the same dresses, and then the little crop tops and skirts that are cute for a night out clubbing, but they're actually not professional for business. And so I looked like a young girl, but not an industry leader. And when I switched to more polished, elevated pieces, everything changed. I started dressing like the professional I am. If I walked into a meeting or someone saw my branding photos, the immediate association was she's a businesswoman, she's classy and credible, and she knows her stuff. If you're struggling with finding what brands you can buy from and you want to really elevate your style, I do have my brand shoot guide, which is like this PDF with every single piece of advice, information, clothing brands, photo shoot, tips and tricks, poses, how to recreate them, images, like the whole lot. And you can get that in the show notes. That will really help you streamline your next brand shoot process. Another mistake that I made was I was trying to look hot and sexy instead of professional and approachable. When you come from the modeling industry, I guess if you're doing bikini shoots, then it's a very interesting kind of style, right? There's either the girls that have like their legs split apart and they're doing all these sexy poses, or there's like the candid, happy walking ones. And when I was moving out of bikini and I went into bridal, it was a lot more classy, and some were serious, some were smiling, but you just wanted candid shots. And so when I came back into branding, I think I got caught up in seeing what everyone else was doing in beauty and looking on Pinterest, and there were people with blazers and no bra on and their boobs were out and they had, the bedroom eyes, and it didn't really align when I tried to do it, and it felt ick for me. Like, I didn't feel like I was being my authentic, bubbly, happy self. It just felt really forced. And I think this is something that I really struggled with in modeling as well. Like, I was not catwalk kind of model. I was more that candid, happy, smiling, like just genuine vibes. And so if you're trying to look hot and sexy, it will attract the younger crowd. I definitely have found, people who are, 25 and under, they're all like, yes, slay queen, you look so good. But if you're trying to sell to women who are, 30 plus, they're probably a little bit insecure. They're probably judging you for looking hot. They probably don't like that you look too good. They only want you to look good to an extent. Otherwise, they hate you. And so, showing up in the wrong kind of outfits and doing the wrong kind of poses, it's like, yeah, that hot and sexy look, that might attract the young crowd or it might attract middle-aged men. Like, you're not trying to sell yourself. You're trying to create this relationship with your audience. And so your branding imagery, your posture, your facial expressions, how your arms are, like the clothing you're wearing, that's going to attract and draw in a certain type of person. And so you've got to think about your ideal client. What would they be drawn to? What do they wear? What feels safe and comfortable for them? What feels approachable? And so when I really changed my styling as well, I got a lot more positive feedback from different people. And it was really interesting because I didn't think that it would make that much of a difference, but it honestly did. Smiling, being warm and friendly, having that genuine look come through in my imagery, that created immediate safety. And it invites people in. It helps people feel comfortable and they want to open up to you, especially if they do feel a little bit closed off or intimidated because you look warm and inviting. So yeah, back to what I was saying, like younger audiences, they respond to more trendy, validation-driven imagery, but more mature audiences value professionalism, authenticity, and emotional safety. And so really knowing who your ideal client is and making sure that you're actually dressing in a way that would attract them in is very important. Now, another thing that has taken me a while to nail, and this is why I've put it in the brand shoot guide that you can purchase, is posing, because I had some signature poses that I would go to, but they weren't necessarily signaling what I actually wanted, like the vibes I wanted to give off essentially. So the body language piece can honestly make or break your brand positioning. So if you've got crossed arms, this signals that you're closed off, you're guarded, or hard to approach. Have you ever been to a social event and someone's sitting there and they got their arms crossed and they're kind of looking at you? You don't really want to go up and talk to them. They kind of look like they're in their own space and they don't want anyone to approach them. Now, if you see someone who's got open shoulders, their relaxed posture, it signals confidence, openness, and safety. Now, if you see someone with a serious face, like, you know, when you've seen someone and they've got an RBF and you're like, oh, I'm a little bit scared. You know, sometimes that can signal authority if you've got that serious look, but it can also make you look really unapproachable. Now, on the other hand, a smile or a laugh, that will instantly signal warmth, friendliness, and trustworthiness. So every pose, gesture, and expression communicates something, and these micro signals shape the entire perception of your brand before you even say a word. Now, one of the other mistakes, and I haven't made this one myself, but I do see it happen a lot in the industry, is people will do the same thing with their brand shoots. Like, the amount of times I've seen everyone get the newspaper printed out and then they put it all on the floor and then they take photos with it, or you've got people who are lash or brow or skin therapists or whatever it is, and then they're holding a laptop. It doesn't make sense. And so when people are looking at these images, just like when I was wearing my activewear and the PT vibe, people who are holding laptops, it's like, are you a social media manager? Like, why are you holding your laptop? Like, I get online courses, but it would make a lot more sense if you were holding a tool that you were using. Like, if you're a skin therapist, hold your skin needling device. If you're a brow artist, hold your brow brush. Like, if you're a lash tech, hold some tweezers. If you're a hairdresser, hold a hairdryer or something. Don't hold a curling wand, because that looks like a sex toy. I have seen that happen. I have actually done it, and it not a vibe. So definitely use a hairdryer. Hot tips with Sammy. But what I'm getting at here is, like, when you're choosing the different products or the things that you wear and all of this stuff, like, it needs to have brand association for a stronger message, because you can confuse people very easily, whether you realize it subconsciously or not. When you're following what everyone else is doing and you're copying those trends, it's actually a disservice to your brand, because there's nothing in there that screams, hey, this is what's unique about Sammy. This is why I would come to her. And so when you get caught up in the world of chasing trends, it shows me that you don't have your own clear brand strategy. It shows me that you don't actually know what you're doing and you don't know what you want. And so taking that step back and looking at planning out your entire process from start to finish, that will give you the answers of, like, how you need to show up and what you need to do. Having a branding kit, and I'm not just talking logos and fonts and colors, I'm talking about who you are as a brand, your values, your mission, your vision, your unique selling point, your client experience. The more clear you are on who you are as a brand and how you show up, the easier it is for you to understand what visuals will align to represent that brand. So it's just like, if you saw someone decked out in tennis clothing, then yes, you're going to instantly assume that they're a tennis player. But with the tennis clothing, it's like, okay, well, there's parts of that that visually show who they are, but, like, what is their personality? Are they a professional athlete, or are they just going out and having fun at the country club and getting drunk? Like, you know, do they value bright colors and they like to be seen and make a statement, or do they prefer more of a minimalist high-end look? Like, look at the bigger picture and, like, what are you trying to actually communicate? Not just, I feel like I should be doing this because everyone else is doing it, because that is the worst decision you can make for anything in business. Like just jumping on trends and following what's popular, that will actually stop you from having a clear point of difference and being able to stand out and attract the right type of clients. Like I've been modeling for the last decade and have done many shoots, both collaborated and paid. And within that brand shoot guide I've created, I've got all the questions from you guys on how I plan to get the most out of my shoots, the clothing brands I usually go for, the signature poses, a breakdown of how to recreate the pose and what it's best used for. There's also some really good tips and tricks on how to pick the right photographer and like what not to do and what questions to ask and how you can actually reduce costs. And I'm actually going to go through some of the tips and tricks in this episode with you. But if you want your own brand shoot guide that you can use as a point of reference and you have all the information written down and some activities to do, I'd highly recommend purchasing that because that will just streamline the entire process for you and it could potentially save you from wasting thousands of dollars like I have trying to figure out what actually works. So this has helped me get really clear on now knowing exactly what I want so I don't waste time and money because brand shoots aren't cheap. They aren't. Like if you think, oh, I'm just going to do a brand shoot, like you could go the cheap way, but then it ends up costing you more because it doesn't look professional. Or you spend all this money trying to do a branding shoot and then you're not prepared and then you end up wasting time and you don't get the images you want. So the whole point of this episode is to help you understand, yes, the branding aspect, why it's important, how the imagery reflects, and then also what you can do to plan for your next branding shoot so you get the most out of it. So first off, picking the right photographer and location. I think you need to be realistic with your cash flow and what you can actually afford. So if you're making 20 to 50K months, then you can afford, $2,000 to $5,000 on your photo shoot, especially if it's going to give you 6 months worth of content. But if you are making $2,000 or $5,000 a month, it's not necessarily going to be the best investment for you. There's a lot of different photographers out there, ranging from amateur and hobby photographers to content creators. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there are professionals with years of experience. So when I was starting out, I did go with the cheaper option because that was all I could afford. And that's okay if you're in the same position too. Like we've all got to start somewhere. When I was working with the cheaper photographers, I would also either go lifestyle shots at my salon or I would book a cheaper studio, like a photography studio at $50 to $70 an hour. So the way you can do this to find cheaper people is you could look at students or people who are studying photography, people who are doing events. So they're doing like nightclubs and stuff like that, but they want to build a portfolio in portraits on the side and then move into that. And they're great because they usually do cheaper rates. It's like $150 to $400 for a shoot. Sometimes they're not the best photographers because they haven't yet had enough training, experience, exposure, skills, and all of that, but they can do a lot better than what your iPhone could. So if you're wanting to do a cheaper option, that's sometimes a great thing. And also I find when you are working with newer people, they don't quite know their worth yet, but they're also not incredible either. So sometimes for what you pay, you also get a higher amount of images, which can kind of bait you because you're going, oh, well, they gave me 50 or 200 images. But then when you start working with professionals, they're like, oh, you only get 8 images or 20 images and you feel like you're getting ripped off. I can tell you right now, like quality over quantity, quality over quantity. But we'll talk about that a bit more later in another tip. So as my brand started to evolve, I then invested into more professional photographers who live and breathe this every single day. So my criteria is that I need someone who's an expert with lighting, positioning, and composition. So I would then look for a diverse shoot location where I could get multiple looks and backgrounds in the same shoot. So you're looking at maybe $100 to $300 an hour studio hire. Now, I would probably be spending around like $1 to $3K depending on how many photos I wanted. Whereas like back when I was working with the cheaper photographers, I might pay $200 and I get 50 photos. But now I might pay $1,000 and get 6 photos. So for me, I think it's really important to understand like where are these images being used? When am I doing my next shoot? Because in the early stages, like you don't need to have super expensive branding photos. Like, you just need something that's more polished than your iPhone. And then as you do more shoots, you also get more confident behind the camera. You also start to invest more in your clothing, or you might have, I don't know, a better positioning or posing for next time that you want to trial out, or another concept or idea. So with your first brand shoot, I would say, unless you have the budget to do it well, you don't have to necessarily fork out thousands of dollars and do it that way. Like, there are other solutions and opportunities and like ways for you to get more value out of that money spent, especially if you don't have the cash flow for it. But in saying that as well, like when I did do my branding shoots and I really elevated, invested higher, I did make more money. And that was because I had invested in my brand first, and then the level I was playing at was starting to attract the higher quality clients. So I think there's, a lot of different ways you can go about it. There's no right or wrong, but you pay for what you get. It's like going to someone who's new in the beauty industry who's been doing it for 6 months versus someone who has been doing it for 6 years. You're obviously going to have a different kind of skill set, different kind of troubleshooting, different client experience, different price and value. So just be mindful of it and don't have unrealistic expectations if you're trying to go for a cheaper budget, because there's a lot of people out there who will go book a shoot and they're like, oh, I paid this much, but I didn't get this. And, they complain about it. But I'm like, did you do your research on the photographer? Like, did you understand their skill level and what you were signing up for? And I think most of the time, if they would have actually done that, they could have gone, oh, wow, well, I could have invested more and had a more experienced person. Or, yep, okay, I did cheap out a little bit here. I need to understand that is because I didn't go for the pro. Now, the second thing I want to touch on is quality over quantity, which is kind of expanding more about what I was just talking about. Like, you are better off having 5 super high quality photos over 30 average quality photos. Now, I used to, when I was selecting out my images, get heaps of the same style photo because I couldn't make my mind up, but it doesn't give me much variation. So I might have 2 similar outfits, poses, looks, but one I'm smiling and one I'm doing a serious face. And so sometimes I'll still do that if I really do like the photo, because serious could be used for one thing and then smiling could be used for another. But don't get 3 to 5 of the exact same look and there's the tiniest micro expression change, because you're just wasting. Like, when it comes to posting, you're only going to use 1 or 2 of those photos. Like, you may as well just choose the one that you're going to use and then free up that selection for some other image, because you want to get variation. So in order to help you select the right images based on the shoot, you want to ask yourself, where am I using this? Is it the money shot? If I had myself plastered on a billboard or the front cover of a magazine, would I be happy with this? And so the more you can start actually asking questions about what do I like, what don't I like, and analyze it that way. And I'm not talking about from a self-worth position, oh, I don't look good, or I look fat, or I don't like the way my hair sits and stuff. If you actually just look at it visually and go, do I like my positioning? Is this giving off a premium vibe? Am I creating the kind of look or vibe that I wanted to? Am I looking friendly? Am I looking professional? Ask yourself those questions, and that will help the image selecting process feel a lot easier. So with the quality of your images, just make sure that you are aware of what you're needing these images for, and look for, okay, if I had my website, about me section, hero page section, if you have social media graphics, it might be an intro of you. It might be you working, or you kind of around some props that are relevant to what you do. So the more clear you can get on that and then select those few images that you need, the better use you will have for those images. Instead of you having all these different photos of you doing the same pose, same outfit, same kind of style, you can actually go, this image is going to be used here. This one is going to be used here. And you're going to feel like, oh, wow, these were the 6 shots I needed. These are the 6 images I got. And you're more selective with the higher quality images, because you're not going to get 500. You're more intentional. Now, another question that usually comes up, and I got asked this from Mel at Bellissa Beauty. She said, selecting and prepping your fits, how many outfits should you bring so you're not overpacking? So some styling tips that I learned through modeling is that if you're wearing a tight top, wear loose and flowy bottoms. And if you're wearing tight bottoms, wear a loose or flowy top. Now, a little hack when it comes to actually choosing our outfit colors that I've found to be very helpful is plugging some photos of you into ChatGPT and then asking what your best color palette and tones are. So you can choose colors of outfits that actually make you pop rather than wash you out. So when I was blonde, I found that different colors really suited me. And as soon as I went back to brown hair, I was like, this does not look good on me. So it's very interesting to see how your natural features, or like your hair, your eyebrows, your eye color, your tan, or your skin color, like this will actually impact what clothes best suit you. And so you can go to a stylist if you want. I know that there are people who do that color matching style things, or you can just use ChatGPT, which is actually a game changer. Now, the other thing that I find with prepping fits is that I like to go for the ultimate mix and match ratio so I can sneakily switch something out without it being a full outfit change. And I want to give myself variety so that I'm not getting the exact same look across. Let's say if I had 20 photos, I don't want to be wearing the exact same outfit. It just gets too bored. Everyone sees you on the same thing. You post that and then you're just like, I hate these photos. I'm over it. So what I like to do is, if I know I'm doing 2 branding shoots a year, instead of me going and blowing 2K on clothes or whatever it is, I will actually, whenever I'm traveling, because I usually be in Sydney and Melbourne because they got more variety than Perth, lol, and I'll like find different pieces and then I'll purchase them one at a time. So over a 6-month period, I might end up purchasing 5 different outfits. And these are things that I can mix and match and then use for my brand shoot. And I find that just like introducing one piece, if I feel like it will really add to my brand shoot in the future, it does make a world of a difference. Like, instead of you feeling like you have no clothes, you can start to go, oh, well, I bought these pants and then, those pants would look good with this top. And you kind of build out your wardrobe for your brand shoots. And I really had to do this for the podcast actually, because like I was saying, I used to live in activewear 24/7. And when you're doing podcasts, you don't want to be wearing the same top for every single podcast, which is what I was doing in the early stages because I was investing it all into the podcast. But now, like, I'm starting to go, okay, can I bring in a top here? And I look for like classy outfits. I look for things that are going to be timeless. I don't look for the latest Shein trend. Oh, yep, cool, it's here. And then now it's not relevant anymore. So like, look for a capsule wardrobe, timepieces that will last you. And if you invest that little bit more in the clothing and you look after it, it will last longer for you. So that's a little bit of a hack that I have found works really well. But in terms of my checklist of what I like to take, nude strapless bra, nude seamless underwear, especially if you're wearing lighter colors. Like if you're wearing white or anything like that, then you definitely want nude. Don't wear black or orange or something random. And I'm just going to say it, like I know not everyone loves a G-string, but like seriously, do not wear granny panties and there's an underwear line if you're wearing tight pants. It doesn't look great. And some photographers might edit it out, but most of them probably won't. They'll just put a preset on. So do yourself a favor and don't wear the granny undies that have a really strong underwear line, or if you do, make sure it's seamless. Now, for me, I think the best mix and match ratio that I've found is usually 2 to 3 tops or bodysuits, and then 2 pairs of pants, 1 skirt, and 1 dress. That's just what's worked for me. You might be a bit different. If you like wearing dresses all the time, then you might just choose to wear dresses. If you like wearing skirts more than pants, then I don't know, bring 2 skirts instead of pants. But what I've found with this, plus also having 1 to 2 jackets or blazers, and you want different colors, so like maybe a white and a black one or a cream and your branding color one, and then 1 to 2 pairs of heels. So usually I'll have like a black pair because that can go with anything, or I'll have a nude pair. So if you've got 1 pair and it can work with all your outfits, then just bring that. But this is the golden ratio of like my outfit packing that I have developed over all the photo shoots I've done. So to recap, nude strapless bra, nude seamless underwear, preferably a G-string, 2 to 3 bodysuits or tops, 2 pants, 1 skirt, 1 dress, and 1 to 2 jackets or blazers if you would like to wear that, and then 1 to 2 pairs of heels. So usually I'll wear a bodysuit or a top with 2 different bottoms. So I might have my green branded pants with a pop of color to stay on brand, and then I might have some black pants or something a bit more neutral. And then if I wanted to, I could add in a blazer and then I could take the blazer off. So then that way I've pretty much got potentially 4 to 5 looks out of just wearing that. And it's not taking me like pulling off all my clothes, putting on something new and taking another 5 to 10 minutes. It's just like add this in, swap this out, take those off. Like you want to create variation. Now, if you do have a matching set, like for example, the green top I'm wearing right now, if you've seen my other branding shoot photos, not the most recent one, but the one before, I have a green top and green bottoms. So what I might do in that situation is I could wear the matching set, but then if I've got a black bodysuit or a black top, I could take off the green top and then pop that on. And then that way I've got a bit more variation. So I like doing it that way because for me, I want to get different looks and styles that I can repurpose, reuse, and not get bored with my photos. I do know that there are some people who really like having a structured styled look, like, you know, someone who might wear like Camilla or something. There's no mix and matching with that. You know, it's just kind of like one look, second look, third look for like, so everyone's going to be different, but just based on my experience and what I know now, I like to have variation. So take it with a grain of salt, but that would be my go-to checklist for me doing a shoot. Now, I find by doing this, I get away with a lot more changes. Like outfit changes, people might say, oh, like 2 to 3. But if I do this quickly and I just add in a piece or take it out, I can get up to like 6 outfit changes, 7 outfit, variations, I would say. Also, another hack, make sure you steam all your outfits the night before or the day of, depending on what time your photo shoot is. And then bring your own steamer. Usually they'll have a steamer at a photo shoot location, but just make sure in case. I really find that steaming out the clothes, it just gives it a nicer polished look. Like if you've got all these wrinkles and crinkles through your shirt, it doesn't look great on camera. And then if you did want them out, it's a lot of editing and that can cost money. So just do the prep work. Now, bring your own coat hangers. You can either hang them up on a handle in the backseat of your car or you can lay all your outfits flat. Most studios will, once again, they'll have a clothes rack that you can hang your clothes on so you can put them up and re-steam them if needed for your shoot. Now, I take a mini suitcase with me that has props, makeup, heels, or any other items that I need for my shoot. So then that way, when I rock up, I got my little suitcase, I got my coat hangers, set it up, and we're ready to go. It's not taking hours for me to figure out, where did I leave this or what did I do? Like the more prep work you put into this, the smoother your shoot will go. I have winged it so many times and I have kind of gotten away with it because there've been shoots for other people. For example, if I'm doing bridal modeling, like I can just kind of rock up and everyone else has everything prepared. And, if someone needs to go run down to the shops, they can. But when it's just you want to make sure that you are prepped and ready to go. Now, the next question that I get is like, how long do I book my shoot for? How does the day actually run? Like timing, scene changes, outfit changes, breaks. And it really, really does depend on what you want out of your shoot. Like if you're a personal brand and you're just getting images of you, it's going to be different than if you are also getting some models in versus if you are doing product shots of something as well. So for me, I like to look at what is the purpose of this shoot, who is actually coming, and then I'll kind of break down a structure from there. So instead of me telling you the exact structure that I would do, I'm going to just break down rough estimates of how long it takes to do the different sections, and then you can plug and play as you see fit. Now, I also do need to say, like, you could do this in a shorter or a longer period of time. Like these are just rough guidelines because the more experienced you are and the better team you have on set, the faster you can pump things out and get what you need done. But if you have people who rock up late, people who have never done this before, and it's your first time, it's probably going to take a little bit longer because you're not sure what you're doing. And that's okay, but it will get better with time. You'll become more efficient. The process will be streamlined. So 10 to 15 minutes is what I like to allow for setup time. So arriving, putting my coat hangers up, needing to steam anything, making sure that all my props are laid out. So that is like one part of it. And then depending on who you have, you might have your photographer or your content creator rock up, and then they might set up the lighting on their own, or you might need to help them with the lighting. Or if you've got, a backdrop, you need to get the backdrop down. So give yourself 10 to 15 minutes for that setup buffer time. And then This is really dependent on how you do your shoot, but if you want to do hair and makeup at the location, instead of driving to the hairdresser, driving to the makeup artist or whatever, and they just meet you there. It depends on who you've got and how fast they work, but I have always found hair and makeup goes over. Like, it doesn't matter where I am, something always happens, whether it's the makeup artist is struggling to put lashes on or the hairdresser's forgotten something. It always seems to be around 1 hour and 15 minutes for makeup, even if you want it to be 45. I swear it just always goes over. And then 45 minutes for hair. And it depends on how long your hair is and what style you want. You could get it done quicker if it was just a simple look, or if it's something more advanced like an updo or there's a lot of curling, then you've got to make sure you allocate for that time. So for me, I like to give 2 hours now, and that means I can get my hair and makeup done and I'm coming into this shoot not feeling stressed. If you can get your hair done at the hairdressers beforehand and then get your makeup done on set, that's actually a really smart way for you to cut down some of your studio time costs if you wanted to. So then that would just mean you would need to book the photo shoot a bit later. So for example, if you wanted to get your hair done at like 9 a.m. and then your photo shoot, starts at, I don't know, you get to the studio at 10:30. So you've got an hour to get your hair done, half an hour to get there, 10:30 you're doing your makeup, and then 11:30 you start shooting. Like, that could be a way that you don't have to book that studio for another hour. But it's up to you. It's up to your team and what's going to work best for you, and driving and all the other things. So this is just merely suggestions. Then if I am just doing me shooting, I used to do my shoots in like an hour and a half. But now I think realistically, if I choose the right location and it's got multiple different setups, I will do 2 hours for shooting. So I'll do about 30 minutes per outfit or look. So 15 minutes, I'll usually do studio shots. So I like to get plain background, white backdrop, and then they could be Canva cutouts or anything like that. And then I'll do 15 minutes for lifestyle shots. So this is me sitting on a couch. This is me sitting in a chair somewhere or standing up, leaning onto something. Like, it's not full studio shots. So this way you are always getting variation. You've got plain and then you've got lifestyle, and you can get the most out of your outfits too. So that is a game changer. Within that, you would probably get like 3 and a bit outfit changes. Usually it takes maybe like 5 minutes to change your outfit, depending on how complex and how many buttons or bodysuits things you got to clip in or whatever it may be. But 2 hours for you shooting should allow you to get through at least 3 outfits, 30 minutes per outfit. And if we break that down one step further, 15 minutes for studio shots and then 15 minutes for lifestyle shots. So that's a really great way to do it. And then if you've got leftover time for your booking, you could have 30 minutes or an hour, depending on how passionate you are about doing it, but BTS content. So you could do B-roll content. You could have someone who comes in. They don't have to be a videographer, but they could just be someone with the iPhone, and they're coming in and they're just taking B-roll content of you to use for your marketing. I get Jen, my friend. If you want to look her up and you're in Perth, New Gen Social. I've also used BTS by Steph. There's some like really great people who charge around like 100 to 150 an hour-ish, and they will come in with their phone or your phone if you've got a better phone than them, and they'll just take heaps of little videos and photos, and then that way you have so much content that you can use on your stories, you can use in little reels and things like that. It really makes the most out of a shoot. Like, if you are doing a photo shoot, highly recommend getting a BTS content creator, because people like the raw, real behind the scenes as well. And so repurposing that content can be very valuable for you without having to like fork out for another shoot and just get a videographer in to follow you around. So with that BTS content creator, it's up to you whether you want them to be there for your photo shoot too. I recommend that they can get BTS of you getting your makeup done if you want, but they don't have to. I feel like as long as they're getting that BTS of you with your studio and your lifestyle shots, that looks really cool, because they can just capture it candidly, like it's not forced. And then at the end, if they have, or you have some ideas of like specific things you want to do, like walking into the camera or doing a certain transition, then at least you've got that time to do that together after. Now, if you have a service-based business and you're showcasing your work, so you've got different models coming in, this is where it can get pretty tricky, especially if you're getting hair and makeup done, which I'm going to talk about later on. But if you have hair and makeup, then you need to be mindful of the time it's going to take them to get their hair and makeup done, and that you've got an efficient hair and makeup artist. If you've got someone who's taking a long time to do hair and makeup, it's not great, because you will fall behind. Your studio time will come to the end, and then you'll be like, oh, we only got through 2 models and we had 4 here, or something like that. So if you had 1 hour and you're just specifically looking at shooting, 3 models, 15 minutes each, and then you can have 15, 15, 15 for your 3 models, and then the last 15 minutes of that hour, you take group shots of them. So then that way you're actually just moving through them well. Now, if you've got products for like e-commerce or something like that, it needs to be planned well, because you need to know exactly what shots you want. Like, do you want the front of the product, 3/4, the back of the product? Do you want all 4 sides? Do you want shots with the models? Do you want someone just holding their hand in it but not their face? Like, the more clear you are for what you need out of each product, the easier it's going to be for your photographer and the quicker you can get through the photos. But if you're just trying to make it up on the spot, you're going to waste so much time. I've done modeling for a few different beauty brands with different products, like those face contour sticks and things like that. And usually they'll get the product photos done while the models are getting their hair and makeup done, so that way you're not wasting time. You're still able to make the use out of your studio booking while everyone else is getting ready. You got those product photos going. Then once their hair and makeup's done, then you go into the lifestyle or the group shots holding the product. So just to kind of recap on what I would recommend as an overall, if you have yourself and you're not doing hair and makeup at the studio, you could get away with 3 hours booking the studio. If you have, well, you could even do it in 2 if you're really quick and you know what you want and what you're doing. But I say 3 hours because then you got some time to just chill and do BTS and videos outside of shooting once you got your photos. If you are doing you and some models, but you don't have to worry about the hair and makeup, I would say 4 hours is a good time. If you need you to do your hair and makeup at the studio plus get all the content behind, you probably want 5 hours. But like I was saying, that hairstyle hack, if you get your hair done first and then you head to the studio, you could get that down to 4 hours for sure. And then if you have you, models, products, like the whole shebang, realistically, you probably want to book out 6 to 7 hours. And I think if you're investing so much time into getting these shots and you're having all the people come, like, it's better to have the shoot time allocated for longer. Well, I wouldn't say shooting time itself, but booking out the studio, because that way you're not actually pressured and you're stressed and you're rushing to just quickly smash through everything and then pack it all down. Because if you're taking all this time to get it prepped and then you rush at the end, it's incredibly stressful. I've been on the receiving end of that as a model for shoots. I've been in it when I'm actually shooting other people as well, when I was doing photography, and it's not fun. So make sure that, whatever you're thinking, as long as you're doing it going, okay, cool, if we finished earlier half an hour and wanted to go home, that's fine. But you don't want to be the other way where it's like, oh, I really want to try push like 10 things into this 1 hour and then be out, because it's just not going to reflect well in your photos because you're going to be stressed. So how do you figure out what the actual purpose of the shoot is? Now, it's really important for you to be intentional with what you want. Look at your upcoming launches, marketing campaigns, or areas where your brand could do with a refresh. I would highly advise against booking a branding shoot just because everyone else is and you feel like you have to. The more clarity you have with the purpose of doing the shoot, the more you'll actually get out of it. And the more you understand and map out your campaigns or launches, the easier it is to plan out what type of images you need. So if you're doing it for website and online courses, you'll need to consider planning out a mixture of landscape and portrait images that can be used throughout. So I made the mistake of doing a whole branding shoot and the photographer took everything in portrait, but I needed these photos for my website and they needed to be, like, some of them landscape for those hero banners. So what happened is we blew up the portrait photos. It lost quality. It just wasn't great. So I had to actually do a reshoot, which is why people are like, oh, why are you doing another branding shoot? I'm like, because I didn't get the images that I needed, because I didn't clearly communicate where I needed them for the photographer so that they knew, I got to actually take some landscape as well. So get really clear on that. Now, if you're doing it for social media only, you probably just want to focus on portraits and then also some images to have negative space. So what I mean by negative space is if there is like you in an Instagram story, let's say, you want to be in the left lower quadrant off to the side and then there's space above you so text can go up there and you're not having the text competing on top of you every time you want to post something. Now, if you're doing it for PR, so public relations, let's say you were the front of a magazine, you were in a magazine article, you're pitching yourself, you would probably need a mixture of professional headshots, full body images, lifestyle photos. So if you're doing it for your business and you've got a team, then you might want to look at getting your team in so that they can have images of themselves for the About Us section in your website, or if you're wanting to do a team member spotlight. Also, if you want to showcase work, then it's great to have some images of models like we were talking about before, so organizing that. If you have products, make sure that you got the products, packaging, anything to do with your flat lay, ideas, product shots, products used in lifestyle, maybe some people actually using the product, like just making sure that you're across the board with how you want your product to be used. And then, if you're using a product, you want to make sure that it's used in the right setting. Like if you were using a beauty product, you would want it to be in a bathroom or in front of a mirror or something like that, not in the kitchen. So be strategic, be intentional. Get clear with the primary format of the platform you're wanting to use the images on and what they are being used for. Do some research and look at other websites, landing pages, social media accounts, etc. And it doesn't always have to be in the beauty industry either. I probably wouldn't take inspiration from the beauty industry a lot of the time because most service-based businesses, salons, clinics and stuff, they're just copying what everyone else is doing. So I like to look at other industry leaders, brands, people that are doing really well. So I look at coaching, I look at construction, I look at digital marketing, I look at dentistry. It's really interesting. And that's part of who I am, right? My whole ADHD journey of look at all the different things, pick apart what is the best and then bring it back into the beauty industry. I encourage you to do that too because, if I see one more branding shoot with a newspaper flat lay, something is coming, I'm going to throw my phone out the balcony. It's overdone. It's not cool anymore. Make it stop, please. All right. So what props do you bring yourself versus what the photographer supplies? This was another question I was asked by Mel. So you need to bring the specific props that you want in the photo shoot that are going to create that brand association. I've been banging on about the same things over and over again in this episode, and that is so it sticks in your mind. Every time you do a brand shoot, I want my voice to come into your head and you're like, what did Sammy say? Yes, she told me to do this. Don't do that. So if there's a specific lighting style that you would like to recreate, it's also best to talk to your photographer beforehand or the studio to see what you have available in terms of lighting and if they can do it. And if they can't and they don't have the equipment, is it something that could be bought or rented? Once again, the more clear you are on what you want, the easier it will be to figure out if the photographer can do it or if you need to find someone else. Now, be really smart about the props you use. Be smart. Create the brand association. Don't just do what's trending. I've seen skin therapists, lash techs, hairdressers, and more all bring laptops to their shoot and wear blazers, but not one single beauty product. And this does not signal that they are in the beauty industry. If I was looking at them, I would be thinking they are a social media manager, they're a copywriter. I don't know. They're literally anything but beauty when I see people wear that. I'm thinking, who are laptops on their day? I'm thinking something to do with digital marketing, honestly. So if you're a skin therapist, it would make much more sense for you to hold some skin products. If it was a hairdresser, like I said before, hold a hairdryer, hold some scissors, just make it super obvious what you do. Question around models that I've had is if you're using models, do they come with their hair and makeup done or do you stagger their times or you bring them all at once? Once again, it really depends on your budget and what you want out of it. So I've modeled for shoots where I come on set and hair and makeup is organized. In a lot of these cases, most business owners who planned out a branding shoot, they may want to look at collabing with other businesses so they all get content out of it. And this is a way for you to reduce your costs and also add value and create Great referral partnerships. Oh my gosh, being in the bridal industry has been so cool because I've seen how important it is to build relationships with other vendors. So makeup artists have a great relationship with a marriage celebrant who has a relationship with a photographer. And so you create this great cross referral pathway. Whereas I find in beauty, it only seems to be skin therapists and naturopaths. And then usually anyone else is just like, nah, cards to the chest, closed off. And I just think that's really piss poor. Like, find people who you can collaborate with and go and approach and do these shoots with ongoing so that you all benefit and you all value, and you can cross refer, you can send clients, you can recommend, because that's how you grow. Now, if you have models, you need to be really mindful of time. I would advise against getting someone to do hair and makeup, like both of them, because it really drags the time out. It's not going to be helpful for you. So look at a hairstylist and a makeup artist, two separate people. And then that way you can have one model getting their hair done and another one getting their makeup done, and then you swap them. So you have your two models come in, and then about 10, 15 minutes before those models finish up, you want to get your next two models in so that they're waiting and then they're ready to go straight away. Bang. The more simple or natural the look, the easier it is, right? You can get away with maybe like 30 minutes per model for makeup instead of an hour and 15. But obviously, if you're going for something more glam and advanced, you need to allow for this time. When I did Miss Universe, it was really good to see that a lot of the girls were already models, or they were trying to pursue a career in modeling. So there was a great selection of people to pull from there. So if you are a high-end brand and you're looking for some high-quality models or people who are kind of like trendy, I would actually go onto the Miss Universe page, look at who was selected in your state, and then reach out to them and pay them a compliment, let them know that you love their content and you think they would be a perfect fit for this shoot that they are doing, and then build a relationship, see if they want to know more, and go from there. It's a really great way to find some great models. Otherwise, you can use your current clients or use other people through friends, network, family that you think would be appropriate. But if you want something to be a bit more like trendy and buzzy and it's like, wow, look at you, instead of being the influencer world, I find Miss Universe, if you can find those girls, that will really help your brand. Sometimes you don't always need to also find someone established that is doing Miss Universe or is a model. Like, you can find an incredibly beautiful girl next door kind of vibe in the clients you already have. You just need to have a look through and go, okay, well, who is my ideal client and who am I trying to attract, and then find the right person, which leads me to my next question of how do you find models? So get clear on what you're trying to promote and who the ideal client is for that service. Your brand images essentially need to mirror the person you're trying to attract. So whatever you do, if you're trying to attract perimenopausal women with hormonal acne and breakouts, don't post photos of someone who's early 20s with perfect skin. Use a model who is in her mid-40s that would represent a woman going through that perimenopausal phase in their life. Now, you can look in modeling Facebook groups in your area. You could reach out to some clients who aren't afraid to get in front of the camera. You could potentially use your staff if you're showcasing like results or things that you've been able to get and they're getting treatments or services from you. You could put a post out to your socials and ask people to share with someone that may be interested. Like, seriously, you've just got to ask and put it out there. Like 9 times out of 10, people will say yes if you ask them. Yeah, I know it's scary, right? Asking someone. But if it's coming direct from you and it's like, I think this would be a perfect fit for you, I would really love to have you here. It's very different than you just putting on a story. It's like, we need a model who's keen, you know? If it's more personalized, if you're reaching out to them, better relationship, more likely to say yes. Simple psychology. Now, if you're going big, you are that premium high-end brand, you might want to look for some established personal brands, models, maybe influencers. I don't really think influencers are as good as they used to be. They don't have the impact. They're not relatable. They're not trustworthy, but sometimes it can be great to have that face to a brand. You may look at an agency to find some of these people, but just be mindful that this model isn't being used with any other brands that are similar to yours or in the same kind of niche or industry. Otherwise, there might be a bit of a crossover. And you see this happen a lot with the same kind of models that model for Baby Boo, and then they're modeling activewear, and then they're modeling something else. And, you know, all of a sudden these brands all have the exact same model. Like if you want to stand out, you need to be a bit different. Another question is, should you be paying models for their time? Now, it really depends on their experience. I feel like every answer in this podcast is like, it depends, because there's so many different factors, right? Something I really struggled with was having a professional career in modeling, and everyone just wants to collab with you, but this is your bread and butter. This is how you make money. This is like the equivalent of you having clients constantly reach out and say, hey, can I collab and have free services? Like, you would probably be offended after a while, because you're like, I poured so much time and effort into this, and, I really want to be valued and respected for my time. Same thing with your models. Now, before I was taking it seriously, I was happy to model for free to build up my portfolio. So if you don't have a budget, you can reach out to some of your current clients or look for someone early on in their modeling career, someone that's a bit more freelance. I find that they're more likely to say yes, because they want to build up their portfolio and they want to also have some level of like brands that they've worked with to pitch and promote for future. So if you get them in that early stage, same as the early stage photographers, you can reduce your costs a bit, or they might be willing to do it for free in exchange for the photos and collaboration and everything like that and tags. If you are working with someone more advanced, or you really want to elevate your brand and have that premium look, then yes, paying a model who is experienced, because you respect and value their time. They know what they're doing. They get the job done quicker and they're more experienced. Like, you could be looking anywhere at $100 to $600 an hour, depending on what the images are being used for and if they are freelance versus agency. Agencies always like to take a nice cut, so they're definitely more expensive. So you may want to put up some posts in like a freelance model group. Be very clear on who you're looking for and what you want. I think sometimes if you're very vague, you don't really attract quality people. So it's like a job advertisement. Like, the more clear you are on who the ideal candidate is, the more likely you are to attract that type of person. So to recap on that, it would be pay a model who is a professional if you want quality, if you want premium, if you want to have an ongoing relationship and show that you value their time. Otherwise, if you don't have the budget and you're not willing to pay for a model realistically, then find someone who is either a client or someone who's building up their portfolio and early on in their modeling career, and then you can exchange services, and then also they get a copy of the photos as well. Another thing that you need to be mindful of is if you start using their face to run ads. Some UGC content creators and some models or influencers, they will want to take a cut off the money you make from their face on advertising. So if you don't charge them and then you're starting to use their face and you're making even more money off, sometimes they'll come back angry and they'll ask for a cut. So just make sure that you have a bit more of a clear understanding about where you're using these images and how you're using them, so that they're aware and they don't go, oh, my face is popping up. I modeled for the Oodie. So they sent me out free product and they asked for me to take some content for them. And then I saw they started running ads with my face and I was like, what the hell? Like, they're making all this money off my face. So yeah, it's a bit of an icky feeling. I get for you as a business owner, you're probably thinking, oh, why would it matter? But I'm just trying to show both sides so you can understand like how to build a good relationship with someone, especially if you want to have a good reputation and work long term. You need to look after your people. Now, what should you be asking a photographer before you book them? So posing guidance, edited images, usage rights, all the things that you don't think to ask. Let me unpack it for you. Now, when I have a photographer, I will always show the images I want. I will specifically detail what I like about the reference image. So lighting, background, posing, props, angle, composition. If you don't know what these mean, look it up, because you need to have an understanding, especially when it comes to these photos. The more you understand this, the better you're going to take before and afters of your clients as well. Makes a hell of a difference. Now, if you find an image you like on Pinterest or social media, screenshot it, add it to a folder, and then break down exactly what you like about the image, because the more you can break it down, the easier it is to get clear on what you're recreating. Now, sometimes I've shot myself in the foot before with someone who has just bought a camera and takes photos, and they're like that hobby person. It's kind of like the person who does an online course in beauty and then they work from home for like one day a week, and then they're kind of doing it as a side hustle, but they're not, and they just want cash. Like, it's the exact same thing with photography. Like, you pay for what you get. Now, it's also important that you don't look at someone who's just copied another person and overinflated their value and doesn't have the skills to back it up because they've just seen someone else charging that. So there's two parts to this. I always make sure that I show the photographer exactly what I want. I ask them for previous images for reference so that I can see. And then I can also understand, like, do they have the right skill set or capability to achieve this? Because if I want Forbes level looking shots and they don't know how to work studio lighting, they're not going to be the right fit for this. Now, there's nothing I have against people who are learning and starting out, but you do pay for what you get. So if you're starting out with your branding shoots and you're starting out as a brand, yes, you'll probably work with more people who are also starting out. But as you start to level up, you become more premium, your quality, your value, your perception, you want everything to be elevated. You are also going to need to invest more money into experts and professionals in their given field of expertise. The other thing is with some photographers, if they're a lifestyle photographer, but they're not good at portraits, then don't expect them to know how to work studio lighting. Like, if they are always shooting outdoors in natural light and you book a studio, then they might be a little bit stumped on, how do I actually do this and how do I work it, which can be very frustrating. So just make sure that you know what they're good at, what their experience is. Do they know how to work lighting? Do they have posing examples and suggestions that they can help out with? Because this is where I find people in our industry struggle the most. They get a photographer, they rock up to the shoot, they didn't get any posing guidance, the lighting looks terrible, the photos aren't even focused, and it just feels like a big waste. So be very clear on what you want. The other thing with photographers is the editing style. So some photographers have their own unique look. I don't know how to explain it, but like some people might be like bright, white, clean. Some might be that like vintage kind of vibe. Others might be a dark, rustic style. So it's going to be different for every single photographer. What you want to get clear on is, what is your tonality? What do you want your brand to look like? How does it fit in with your feed? How do you want your photos edited? So if you've ever heard of presets, what type of preset do you want for your brand? Like, if you're dark and moody, you don't want them to edit them light and oversaturated and colorful. If you like clean but contrasted, you don't want it to be like underexposed or under contrasted. I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but you get what I mean. Like, you don't want it to be the complete opposite of what you're asking for. And I've had this happen before. I wanted clean, white, bright branding images, and I got vintage style edited wedding images. And I had to go back and say, hey, can you please re-edit these because this is not the style for my brand? And then the photographer gets annoyed, and then it takes them more time, and then they'll usually want to charge you more. So another hot tip is that when you do your photo shoot, ask them if they can send like a couple of photos edited to check how the edit looks and send it across for your approval before they edit the whole gallery. Because if they edit the whole gallery and they're like, here you go, and then you got the photo and you're like, I don't really like this, and then you ask them to re-edit and they get angry at you, it's better if you can just get two photos and be like, I love what you did here, I would probably change this, and then they can go, cool, yep, no worries, thank you, and then they can edit the rest in the style you like. So I know I've said a lot of different things here. I kind of just wanted to do one bigger episode on everything brand shoot, brand imagery, because in order for you to understand, like, why is my brand not attracting the right type of clients, or like, why am I struggling to plan out a shoot? Like, there's so many different moving parts in here. There's a lot of psychology. There's a lot of planning and prep work involved. And then there's also a lot of intention about where and how you do certain things and why you're doing them. If you need a nice structured guide that breaks it all down for you, head to the link in the show notes and you'll be able to purchase my brand shoot guide, which will really help streamline this entire process for you. If you have any questions about anything that I've said, please send me a message on Instagram at Sammy Kennedy Coach, and I'll be more than happy to send you a few voice notes through and give you some breakdowns, tips, strategies, examples of what you could do to plan out or elevate your next branding shoot. But the bottom line is, if you want to be seen as an industry leader, if you want to create trust, if you want to be taken seriously, look at leveling up your brand. Like, yes, there is social media graphics. Yes, there is copywriting and content strategy. Yes, there are branding images. Like, there's so many different elements and aspects. But if you could do one thing today to get you started on this journey, I would start at your images, because once you elevate your images, then you'll start to get a feel for how you want to do your graphics. And then once you got your graphics down packed, you can focus on the copywriting. So I really hope that this episode provided you with value on understanding how you can elevate your brand and how you can plan for a better brand shoot in the future. And I really look forward to hearing your feedback from it. Have an amazing week. I look forward to catching you in the next episode, and I'm praying that it's in the new podcast studio. There may be another couple before it's all ready to go, but I will keep you updated. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time. Bye.
Audience exclusive.